Satterley. I am the CEO of Econ Africa, and I apologize in advance. I'm from New York, and I talk fast. So we're exploring for oil and gas in the east and west Comango area. We're finding encouraging results to date. We've drilled 2 wells. We've acquired a lot of seismic data. But people not be aware that oil and gas is an extremely data-dependent business. When you talk about big data, it's hard to see larger data stores and reuse. The applications we use are quite advanced. And that's why we are so pleased to sponsor this conference. The 4 IR goals are absolutely critical to the oil and gas industry, whether it's onshore or offshore. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about the 3 pillars that we see supported, and I think will echo very much with the keynote address. STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math, absolutely critical. Namibia has to be able to determine its own future. You've all heard about the big discoveries offshore and stuff. These are sovereign. The country must have these young people educated in the science, technology, engineering, and math. Electrification. Where we work in the east and west Comango, electrification is absolutely critical. And network infrastructure. So these 3 pillars are absolutely critical. Onshore oil and gas is very intimate with the communities. And so we actually do all of our operations through Reconnaissance Energy Namibia, which is 100% staffed from casual workers all the way through general manager, or Solango being there. And they run both of our operations and our ESG commitments, which is $112 million individuals. This represents $20 million we committed last year to COVID, to drilling 22 new community water wells, and again, STEM education projects, which we see as critical. Now, to step onto the digital side, like I say, oil and gas is incredibly digitally dependent. Huge volumes of data that are acquired, processed, analyzed, incredible visualization applications, really similar to what we've seen in medical imaging. So the Internet of Things helps run our production facilities. AI drives a lot of the applications that we see nowadays. But this all sits on an infrastructure. And there's a dichotomy that I'll point out that we see working in this Western Africa. So talk briefly about the seismic acquisition. Seismic data is basically like an ultrasound, but for the Earth. So even if you go up to the Comango area, it's flat, there's topology there, there's topography. And what the seismic does is help us locate where oil and gas are accumulated. So, like a sonogram, we have a source. In this case, it's an environmental sensitive source called a thumper. Just simply thumps the ground, generates a signal. We have wireless receivers, hundreds of them that are distributed around that receive these signals. And again, they're wireless. And so it's all integrated together with GPS and GIS applications. All this is operated through local staff. Our most recent project, one seismic acquisition project, was 8 terabytes of data. That's one project. So imagine the offshore and all the data that's there. There'll be hundreds of terabytes of data. So again, whether you like it or not, Namibia is in the big data business. What we did with the data out in Comango is we were able to connect up to the cloud in Rundu. And then now the applications that do the processing are distributed around the world. But the dichotomy of one of those ones, again, remember, this is sovereign data. As Recon Africa, we work here with the privilege of the government. All that data is owned by the government. And so managing that data going forward, storing, that's a big ask. And I think that's why, again, this conference is so important. Here's the dichotomy. So in this whole, all this architecture and digital workflow I've talked about, it's being executed in an area with huge electrification and network challenges. We'll have guys we trained up that are out in the field working with this new technology. We'll go home and they don't have electricity, right? So to me, that's a big core challenge, and why I think it's appropriate that we look at it from a progressive standpoint. And so again, that's really what I find to be challenging, but also an opportunity. Doesn't mean you have to go through the same path that the Western world. There's leapfrogs you can take. But to finish up, these are not uncommon problems. In the U.S., electrification took place, the old-fashioned way, right, through fossil fuels. The internet has been a challenge, setting up the internet in rural communities and, frankly, in inner cities. So everyone faces that kind of challenge. But again, it starts with potentially leapfrog, jump-starting this revolution. And we feel that natural gas can be a way to do that. It's part of a transition, but natural gas is part of any oil and gas field. There's always natural gas there. And there's a new technology called gas to power that is being used. That instead of moving gas on pipelines, you have small scalable electrical plants that convert electricity locally. Then you plug it into the grid. The first example, if you look to soil in Angola, there's a gas to power plant. This kind of technology allows you to bring electricity locally and either use it off-grid or on-grid. And we think it's an important technology that needs to be looked at. There's a project some of you may have heard of called the Kudu Gas Project. Kudu is an offshore gas field that's been around for a while. So Kudu is going to take gas, send it offshore, and then turn it into electricity. We think that's a critical technology that maybe wasn't there 10 years ago, but is part of the success case that we have for East and West Tobacco. So again, just to restate, STEM education, and I'd add as the father of two daughters who both went through the engineering domains and came home crying sometimes. It's got to be it's got to be for all genders. It's got to be gender neutral. STEM education, electrification, and network access. And for that, thank you very much.